So it's been a minute since I've done a video. I think the last one that I did, like a drive home or a drive to work video, was February, I think, of or earlier this year. And I'm doing one today because of an interesting experience I had over the weekend. And I wanted to address something that is, I feel, pretty important, particularly in our society today. And that is civil debate. So on, I don't even remember now when it was. It was either Friday or Saturday. I think maybe it was Saturday. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, a friend of mine shared a political cartoon on Facebook. And the cartoon pointed out the hypocrisy of Iran's 30% increase in executions, most of which, this was not in the cartoon, but this is in other research, other areas, are political dissidents. A 30% increase in executions, while simultaneously being named to a special focus group at the UN on human rights. Now, that was a decision on the UN's part that drew a lot of irritation and frustration from around the globe because of ongoing human rights abuses in Iran. So the cartoon was not something that was out of the ordinary. It was not particularly out of the ordinary for my friend. She does comment regularly on political issues. And someone came on to her post and attacked her for it and accused her of promoting racist dogma. And the reason she did this was for one reason. My friend is Jewish, and she frequently posts her support for Israel. She also posts support for the Palestinian people who are innocent and being killed and lost because of the actions of Hamas, which is a designated terrorist group. Now, I saw this particular post that this other woman, who I don't know her personally, don't know anything about her, except in the conversation we ended up having. But I looked at what she had written in response to my friend's post, which is a reasonable thing to post as a person who is actively involved in political the political life of our country, and who is deeply concerned on a personal level with what is happening in the Middle East. It was not out of the realm of her interests, her demographic, and just who she is as a person. My friend is a very compassionate, very kindness-minded person. But the attack that she received from this other woman was based on literally one issue: the fact that my friend is Jewish and supports Israel. And I pointed out to the person who shared that her demand, or her attack rather, was anti-Semitic in nature, because she was calling my friend out for posting it because she's Jewish, not because of the factuality of the cartoon, not because the person who was angry with my friend was in support of Iran at all. She was literally taking her to task because of her support of Israel as a Jewish woman. And so I pointed out to her, I responded to her. I should probably back up. Let me back up. Let me explain why I've responded to her. I have several Jewish friends, and all of them have posted similar things recently, over the last month. That the anti-Semitism that they see, what some intellectuals and writers and just political people have called garden variety anti-Semitism over the last several weeks has become more acceptable, almost to be expected, and we too often pass it by. And those who are on the front lines of that anti-Semitic attack, our Jewish friends, feel alone in their stance against racism and bigotry. And I've noticed that. And so occasionally on my friends' posts, when I see someone post an egregious comment that calls my friend out for a stance that is not particularly pro-Israel or anti-Palestine, because to be fair, I've never seen her post anything that is anti-Palestinian at all, ever. She has posted anti-Hamas things, but Hamas is a terrorist organization. I'm going to turn this around because the view outside is just gorgeous, and I think, it's prettier than me. Look at those clouds. Aren't they gorgeous? Anyway, so occasionally my friend posts things that are just neutral in nature, and they're discussing something that's happening in the Middle East, or pointing out something that's happening in the Middle East that is problematic and one of the root causes of the current crisis. And Iran is one of the causes of the current crisis. They continue to fund the terrorist actions of Hamas and other organizations that are considered terrorist in their nature, which continues to bring about problems in the Middle East. And that's not to say that they are the only cause of problems in the Middle East. I could go probably at length about the problems of denying people who inhabit your space citizenship. I think I think what's happening in Israel and Palestine is a perfect example of what happens when people are not represented in their government. And the atrocities that happen are just terrible. They just are. There's no way around it. It's just terrible what's happening there. A few years ago, William and I attended a recirculating aquaculture class back in New York, and at the class, one of our fellow students was a man who worked with an NGO that works in Gaza, and he shared some videos with us, some pictures of the dire need of the families, the children, everyone in Gaza particularly, and he was there with the express goal of learning how to develop a contained aquaculture program that could be taken to Gaza and set up within a small system so that the people there could raise fish and lettuce, even inside a building. Essentially a controlled environment agriculture, because the people in Gaza don't really have access to land to farm, and so they have no real way to support their own people, and it's an awful condition. It's terrible. Anyway, so back to the original point here. Sorry, I digress. My toxic trait is that I talk too much. So my friend shared this cartoon, and I occasionally will comment on the things she shared, or just, respond with, your Facebook like, which means nothing except I saw it, I support you in it, I'm sorry you're hurting, I'm sorry that this wounds you, because I think it should wound all of us. I think it should hurt all of us that this is happening. Anyway, in response to this attack on her for sharing something that was neutral in nature, and not an attack on Palestinians at all, not in any way, shape, or form a call for any kind of attack on was simply calling out the hypocrisy that's happening in the UN as my friend who is Jewish sees it. And the attack was because my friend is Jewish and supports Israel. And so I called her on it. And I explained, and I was not angry in my response. I was just really clear. I try to be really clear online because it's so easy for people to misunderstand your words. So I try to be very, very clear and to not leave anything hanging that could be misunderstood or misconstrued. I'd like it to be clear. And so I explained to her where the anti-Semitism was, and I explained that there was some rhetoric that she was using that fell squarely into logical fallacy, and I just explained it. Well, I was expecting or hoping, honestly, I was hoping that she would respond in a civil debate manner, and this is maybe hope is another toxic trait if that's even possible. My kids tell me that maybe it is. I continue to hope that as I attempt to engage people in civil debate, that they will respond in kind. Because I believe that civil debate is one of the foundations of our civilization. The capacity to disagree in a way that strengthens us rather than tearing us apart is essential to a democratic republic. It's essential for a group of people as varied and as disparate as American citizens are. It's imperative that we be able to discuss where we disagree so that we can find common ground. And that is typically where I try to find the place I try to go in all civil debates. Now, I could have just ignored what she said. I really could have. I could have just ignored it and let it go, and it would have simply been one more attack on my Jewish friend that gets ignored. One more garden variety anti-Semitic attack because she's Jewish, because she supports Israel, because that's become unpopular in certain circles. And because I know what she's suffering with from the things that she has shared, because I have heard from so many other people what is being experienced by my Jewish friends, I didn't feel like I could, with any integrity, ignore what she was saying. I couldn't ignore what she was saying because it was a personal attack. And when she responded, she doubled down on her accusations against my friend of being, and she threw in Islamophobic because the cartoon referenced the Islamic Republic of Iran. And saying Islamic Republic of Iran is not an Islamophobic comment. That's the name of the country. That is the name of the country. It is not a reference to the religion at all. So I explained that. I rejoined with the original comment and said this isn't Islamophobia. She's literally making a comment about a political party who made she's talking about executions. She could have been about anything. Why? And I asked the question, why shouldn't she? Why shouldn't she? And she came back again with more anti-Semitism remarks. I don't know that she is anti-Semitic. Honestly, I don't think she is. To be fair, I don't think she is. I think she's responding to the crisis in the moment that it's happening, and she's using propaganda and political hot issue words right now that do have an anti-Semitic basis that maybe some people are unaware of. Now, here's the part I really want to discuss. Sorry, it took me almost over 15 minutes to finally get to the point. Sorry, toxic trait, talk too much. As I explained what I was seeing in her argument as a fallacy, this woman who I was discussing this with did something very interesting, and this happens a lot, and And it is another logical fallacy in and of itself, but I wanna bring it out because this is common in our world today, and it is eroding the bedrock of our civilization with its contemptible decision to willingly avoid discussing the hard things instead of going for a win with something that they believe is an easy win that usually involves a fallacy, particularly ad hominem attack. So this is what the original commenter did. She apparently researched me in some way, and she responded in her next response with I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say because you belong to a white supremacist religion. And I thought, well, that's so out of the blue. And I responded to her. I said, well, okay. I responded to her comment and explained that my religion is not white supremacist. For those of you who may not know, I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I discussed, not at length, but just briefly, the history of the church as an anti-slavery church. Now, I'm not going to argue that there aren't some white supremacists in the church. I think every organization that exists has racist, sexist, bigoted individuals in it because it has people in it. Every organization out there has people, and people carry those things with them. And we discussed that. She and I discussed that. And the next comment that came back from her was so vile. I mean, it was nothing but an ad hominem attack against me. And she started going into this interesting narrative, and she addressed me as if I had personally told her she wasn't welcome at church because she's queer. She threw in a lot of stuff from past history, had nothing to do with the discussion at hand. It's one of those fallacies against where we're gonna change the goalpost. We were no longer discussing the fact that what she shared originally was based in anti-Semitism and racism, and now it became an attack on me personally because she viewed me as personally responsible for her not feeling welcome at church. Now, I just want to say, her arguments against me and my ongoing discussion with her had nothing to do with her being queer. In fact, I didn't even discuss it. I didn't even comment on that at all. I didn't feel like it was relevant to the conversation, and frankly, it's none of my business. I think sexuality is a personal decision, and I have no say over that. I have friends and family who fit the demographic of ex-Mormon, LGBTQ identifying individuals. We're still friends. We're still family. I don't see that as a reason to not be friends or family. I think those are personal decisions. Everyone has a right to choose their own sexuality. They have a right to choose what they believe in. That's such a foundational right. It's such a foundational belief that trying to make that decision for someone else is just inappropriate. It just is. But she turned the discussion, and this is the part that became very frustrating. She turned the discussion into a perceived attack on her, on my part, based on the things she said. I never addressed her sexuality. I never addressed her relationship with the LDS Church. These were arguments that she proposed in her statements to me. Then she erased the commentary, and she shared a video from a young Jewish woman, and she was giving her stance on why she doesn't support Israel. And at the end of the video, and this was the part that I truly disagreed with, there was some misinformation in the video, but she expressed herself eloquently and well, and I felt that she did a good job just sharing her position and explaining why. So it was a legitimate video. But at the end of the video, she talked about how Israel began as a racist state because they only allowed Jews from Eastern Europe. And she said the Sephardic and the I can't pronounce the other one, Israel. I'll apologize if I butcher that. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. Jewish people are not welcome, which is patently false, because over 50% of the Jewish population in Israel is made up of that demographic, which the woman said we're not welcome in Israel. It's just patently false. It's not a true statement. And she said, there is no need for Israel to exist. And I responded to her video and said that is an anti-Semitic position, to believe that Israel does not belong in a place where Jews have lived as indigenous individuals for thousands of years is false. It's an anti-Semitic position. It would be as wrong as saying the Palestinians do not belong in the area. That is also an incorrect and racist statement. Either position, moving completely to either side, is a racist statement. Both of those groups of people have inhabited the area for thousands of years, and both of them deserve to feel safe and secure in a homeland that grants them citizenship and in which they have a say in their governance. I believe in that wholeheartedly. Now, what happened next is the interesting thing. A friend of hers got on and repeated some of the most vile garbage I've ever seen. And she claimed that I had said that her friend was no longer welcome in the LDS church because she's gay. She said that I had said that I supported a Palestinian genocide, that I wanted Israel to, just completely destroy Palestine. I mean, it was stuff that was so patently false, such a complete lie, that it was a little bit shocking. And her answer was, you just need to not say anything. You're psycho. You're crazy. You need to not say anything anymore. You need to just stop responding. Okay. If anybody knows me, they will know that if you use such vile tactics as that, I will respond. Not because I want to continue an argument, but because that behavior is the epitome of what actual antisocial behavior is. Not because, I don't want to hang out with people and I don't like people, but actual destruction of society. Then she said that they had friends who were planning on attempting to dox me, and that someone had taken screenshots of the conversation that was deleted and were making some kind of a video about it and sharing it. No, it was great. Apparently I'm infamous on TikTok, which is, it's a shame that I don't care about TikTok, or otherwise I'd have a really good time and seeing how it all goes and how it all breaks down. This is why this is important. It's not about me. I literally don't care. I stand by what I said in the actual discussion. I have no idea what lies are being told in the other part of the discussion, because the things that her friend was claiming I said, and I never said. We hardly discussed the Palestinians at all, to be fair. We discussed how she was responding to my friend and the way she attacked her, which was anti-Semitic in nature simply because she's a Jew and supports Israel. The response was not about the cartoon. It was not about the wider concerns about security and a democratic system of government and freedom of speech in the Middle East. It was literally an attack on her because she's a Jew. That's anti-Semitic. That is what it is. That is anti-Semitism. Anyway, it was very frustrating. The whole discussion had nothing to do with whether she's LGBTQ. Had nothing to do with her being queer. It had nothing to do with her being an ex-Mormon. Had nothing to do with her relationship with the LDS Church. She attempted to make it about that because of one thing, and that's why I'm sharing this. She refused to engage in a civil debate. Civility never entered into it. She called me names. She did a whole bunch of ad hominem attacks. She invented things I had said to her that I didn't say. They aren't anywhere in the discussion. And sadly, no one can go and see the original discussion because she very conveniently deleted it. So no one can actually see what was actually said. Oh, they can see my responses to her friend if her friend has left them up. I don't know. I haven't checked it for hours, and I don't think I will, because you can only hope that someone will engage in civil debate and have them, incapable of it for so long before it's just it's an exercise in futility, and eventually you stop. I'm posting this because I believe that this is an example, a perfect example of what's happening in our country that is causing our inability to find common ground. This is behavior that keeps us from being able to actually address real issues. Because what's happening between Israel and Hamas right now, that's a real thing. That's a real problem. Antisemitism is on the rise. That is a real thing. That is a real problem. Islamophobia is on the rise. That is a real thing, and it is horrific. The people who are caught in the crosshairs of this crisis are being wounded here in the United States, not by Hamas and not by Israel. The people that are being wounded here and attacked here and being left to feel alone, like they're standing on the front lines of an attack on their ethnicity and their deeply held religious beliefs, their race. Those people are being injured by others here in the United States that are lining up behind sides and who are incapable of talking to one another in a civil manner. People who are incapable of, with integrity, acknowledging where there's a mistake and acknowledging when there's a tactic being used that is completely out of bounds for a discussion that would actually do some good. But I just wanted to bring this out. I wanted to talk about it because this is the kind of thing that destroys civil liberties at the individual level. When people threaten doxing, when people lie and misrepresent, when people attack and then hide behind an identity as if the identity indemnifies you from the obligation of civil debate, we can't be fellow citizens. We can't do it. Why would you try the tactics of despotic governments, frightening someone into being silent? I mean, you can see I'm shaking in my boots here. Why would you try to misrepresent someone when there's enough falsehood in the world right now to fight against? Why would you invent something that's completely fake? Why would you? Why? It's so pointless. It's so pointless. Or to be fair, I enjoy history. I really enjoy history. I love it. And one of the basic premises of history is that because we weren't there, we have to take other people's word for it. And you look at multiple versions of that history, try to find some evidence of those historical stories, the context in which they happened. And it can be endlessly debated, but you can't live there. We can't live 150, 200 years ago. All we can live in is now. And so, in order to live in the now, we have to be able to discuss the past civilly. Because civility is what keeps us connected to one another. The compassionate understanding of where someone is coming from is important. And every opportunity I offered to this particular individual was rejected in favor of ad hominem and just outright lie attacks. So, I'm on here doing a video. I haven't done one for months. I've been sick with long COVID, and honestly, it's just been the last month that I've actually felt well enough to go anywhere, really. I'm on here because this is important. We've got to be able to discuss things that are hard in a way that keeps our hearts soft towards one another. Because the only way to overcome difficulties in the world is to overcome differences and anger between individuals. And we can't do that when we lie, when we attack without cause, when we support racist statements, and when we don't stand for one another when it's happening to them. My Jewish friend has shared many things about how difficult the last month has been. And I've studied enough of history to know that one of the first things that happens in an ethnic cleansing is when people who used to be friends turn against one another in an effort to preserve themselves. I don't feel comfortable with that. I think when you know something is wrong, you have to say it's wrong. It's easy and it's comfortable to sit and say, not my problem. I don't need to comment on that. That's not my religion. I don't have to worry about that. That's not my ethnicity. I don't have to worry about that. That's not true. That's not true. I think we have an obligation to look clearly at what's happening around us and stand up against hatred and violence and personal attacks, regardless of who's doing the attacking. If it's someone who identifies with us in some way, even more so, because you already have some common ground, and you need to say, no, this is not okay. We need to be able to debate civilly, because our civilization will crumble without it. And I believe we have something worth saving here. I believe freedom is worth preserving. I believe that the security that the freedom of speech offers us is something worth preserving. And I believe, as an American citizen, I have an obligation to defend that with others. It's just a Facebook thread. It's not a big deal, right? Except maybe to somebody it is. And so I said something. And I'm glad I did. And I would say it again. And I believe in standing up for what is right, regardless of who gets angry about it. And even more so, I believe in telling the truth when there are those who continue to perpetuate lies. Yeah. The world needs people who are willing to tell the truth. Even the hard truths. In fact, more so the hard truths. Lies won't get us anywhere. And the world needs people who seek truth. And truth that is carried with some kindness, some civility. So, go be a civilization builder. Engage in debate. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. And if you're a person who's using ad hominem or resulting to ad hominem because you want to win the debate, you're not debating. That's not what debate is. Debate isn't about winning. regardless of what you learned in high school, in your forensics classes. The debate within a civil society, particularly a democratic republic like the one that we have, is to find some common ground on which to build a stable foundation of a peace between people that everyone can live with. That's what the goal of civil debate is. It's discussing hard things and finding the answers that are only won through active discussion. It has to happen. It's important. And our American society needs it more than ever. So if you're attacking anyone based on their ethnic history, based on their religious beliefs, no matter how opposed to them you are, or their sexuality, or their race, you're out of line. Discuss ideas, not the intimate details of the person you're talking to. Discuss ideas. Pull them out. Pick them apart. Find where they have issues. Find out where they're broken. Find out where they're strong. Find out where they're true. And you're going to hear ideas from people you disagree with that are still true. And you're going to find ideas from people that you really love that are false. And you've got to be able to look rationally at the world around you and talk compassionately with the people around you so that you can be a part of a founding generation for a civilization that continues instead of rips itself apart because of hatred, bigotry, racism, sexism, and any other ism that's out there. We don't have the luxury of hating each other. We need to actually talk to one another, not attack, actually discuss, actually debate, actually engage with one another. And I know some people say, oh, social media is not worth anything. You just get on there and people are hateful. You know, I know that happens a lot. It happened this last weekend, sadly. But on my page, it doesn't happen as often. I have in the past, well, a lot of times in the past, asked difficult questions, like hot button issues. Things where I'm asking people to give their thoughts. And I always, and this is the beautiful thing, I have people from a very wide spectrum of demographies in the United States comment because I have worked very hard to make them feel welcome on my page, to make them feel as if their thoughts are welcome, because they are. I want to hear their thoughts. I want to hear where we disagree. I want to hear where we do agree. In fact, after the last election, it was one of my posts that got the most traffic. I made a really simple statement, and I said that you didn't have to vote for someone to treat them with respect. And wow, you'd have thought I told people to sacrifice their firstborn. Just making a simple statement to respect other people was such a hot topic. People from all walks of life were so willing to hold on to the official politician that they hated. I had so many people comment with the right to hate someone. It was sad. And one of my friends got on there and said, I can't tell from this post who you voted for. I said, well, good. I'm glad. That's my goal. I don't want anyone to ever feel like they can identify or not identify with me because I am too closed-minded to hear their position. I'm open to positions. I'm not open to outright denial or lies. I'm not open to lies. But I am open to a difference of an interpretation. But it does require that the other person be open-minded as well. Otherwise, it's just an argument that never wins. So, there's my excitement from the weekend. I continue to hope that people can debate civilly. Hopefully that we can learn to do that. I hope we can. And I hope you'll engage. Because even though social media lends itself towards algorithms that lead you only to see what you want to see, if you continue to engage with multiple views, it doesn't happen as much. I have a pretty wide and varied group of ads and everything else that pops up, interests and discussions that show from a nice group of friends from all over the world and from all different viewpoints and religions, which I really appreciate. But social media is our town square. It is the place where we in modern society meet to discuss ideas. We get onto YouTube and share our thoughts like this. We respond to others who have shared their thoughts like this. We get onto TikTok. Well, some people get on TikTok and they share their views. It's where we talk. Except I'm afraid we're not talking. We're pontificating. We're not debating with any civility, and we're not discussing with calm and rational, logical discussions. And that has to change. We have to become a better people if we want a better country. We have to. We don't have the luxury of ignoring each other. We think we can, but we can't. Our civilization demands that we listen, we learn, we stand up, we speak, we discuss, we debate with courage and with courtesy. Because if we all did that, then those things wouldn't be in such short supply. Anyway, have a great night.